have this result, and we must have, if you have a result like that, you know that then this author not only must have had a proof because it's a difficult result, and also that he must have recorded it because nobody else is going to do that. He didn't get it from somewhere else, and therefore it must be found in his own text. And so there are two of results like that. One is the approximate quadrature of the circle in Baudhayana Suva Sutra, and the second is something that I won't be talking about here, which is Brahmagupta's theory of the cyclic quadrilateral. And so it turns out that if you try to understand what Baudhayana is doing, you find, first of all, that all the attempts that have been made by modern methods have all failed. And second, that actually he's indicating the way he worked in his text, but you need to read it very carefully. You need to wonder, why is he choosing that particular word? Why is he putting these statements in this particular order? Only if you do that, you'll be able to understand. And what is very surprising to was very surprising to me is that actually he's using mathematical methods that some of them do not have a modern counterpart. So that was very exciting, and so that illustrates that it is interesting to look at what Baudhayana is doing from a purely mathematical standpoint.
Okay, great, sir. Great to hear about your perspective on Baudhayana. So continuing this, I have another question for you, sir. So there are these research papers that you've published on Baudhayana Ganit, and what do you have to say about his works? Are they accurate, authenticity-wise, or they are credible even today? How are they relevant in today's time, sir?
Yeah, there are several things that we may learn from Baudhayana that are important even today. The first thing is that in the Suva Sutra there are two parts. There is the first part that is the first 62 statements in Thibault's numbering that are purely mathematical and that are separate from the ritual part that comes afterwards. You just devoted to how you construct certain chittis, that is things that are actually useful for ritual. But in this first section, he's separating the mathematical part from the rest, and he's introducing objects that are ideal objects, that is coarse, that have no thickness, or points that have that are supposed to be put at posts that are supposed to have no dimension at all. And he's making a purely mathematical discourse on that. And that's very important because even though he's interested in Vedic ritual, what he says is also applicable. It is acceptable by other people, by Buddhists or Jains. I mean, you don't have, even if you're not interested in Vedic ritual, this is still relevant. The second, so if you wanted to be very crude, I mean, in a very simple way, he looks like he invented pure mathematics. It is as a separate endeavor. The second thing is that there is an idea of progress in Baudhayana and also in most of our later mathematicians. That is, they talk about, well, they give results that are both gross, what they call stula, and also results that are sukshma. That means that the point is not to get at the final result that would eclipse everything else. There is a tradition, and then people first found something, and then they corrected it, and then they corrected it again, implying that they could go on correcting. So there's an idea of progress that is implied by the way he's working, and that's something we still need to keep in mind. We don't know everything. It's not true that we have clarified everything. So there's a lot of room for also, the other thing from a purely mathematical standpoint is that the way the concepts that he uses, and in particular, the way he thinks about measurement, is something that has no modern equivalent. So it is something that is interesting, and I've used it in I'm not going to talk about my work, but even my work on modern mathematics, this is something that comes up. In a nutshell, what he's saying is that the relation between number and geometry is that when you measure something, you choose a unit, but this unit is arbitrary. And so you can measure with one unit, but for example, you can measure with the height of the Yajamana, or you can use the length of a seed or something, or you can even, and he says that, you can define lengths that are completely arbitrary. Yatakami, that's the word that he uses. And if you look at the way he works, he actually uses several units in the same calculation. And these units are not necessarily multiples of the same basic unit. So the problem of incommensurable or irrational numbers is something that simply doesn't arise in this context, because that's completely irrelevant. There's no reason why everything should be measured by one unit. And so this is something that is a different way of thinking, and it is a useful way of thinking. So these are some of the things that are interesting, and these things, as you see, there are things that we don't. So it's not true that Baudhayana has been rendered obsolete simply because there are many people that have done other things. Even in India, there are many things that have done a lot of mathematics that are not in Baudhayana. But still, there's no reason why we should give up on reading.
Oh, okay.
And also, I should add, of course, I focused on the quadrature of the circle. When I said that there are things that Baudhayana was the only one to say, that of course there are many other results that were taken over by later tradition, and in particular the so-called theorem of Pythagoras that actually is not attested in any text by Pythagoras, but is first stated as a general theorem by Baudhayana. So that's also something very important. We need to remember that the very important results that were given by Baudhayana and were kept by tradition and were amplified by tradition.
Okay, okay. So your knowledge seems really great on this subject, and probably there might be people after this session who might want to get connected to you. So, with your permission, probably
Sure,
we will get them connected to you, sir.
definitely,
And
definitely.
very intriguing discussion, sir. Thanks a lot for your perspective on
I have a
mathematics
question.
given by.
Can I ask?
Uh, Madam, can we take the questions later, or
Okay.
is it one question?
Okay, done. I will send the question across.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so next we have coming up, our next speaker is Madam D.K. Hema Hari, who is founder Bharat Gyan and author and research scholar on Indian civilization. Her core works includes research compilation of 500 plus short films, 108 plus subjects of Indian civilization, 100 plus books she's authored on Indian civilization in English, Hindi, Kannada, Tamil, Gujarati. And she also has in her portfolio 300 short films made on Indian civilization for social media and 5 documentaries. Welcome, ma'am. And with your permission, I will put forward the questions that we have received for you from our participants. Let me go to the first question. And you were working into MNCs and you were into technology and management. Now, as a person, what made you choose Indian knowledge system as your area of research? And you see any influence of the ancient Indian geometry or mathematics in the present architecture or lifestyle of the people?
Yes, first of all, thank you for inviting me on this panel and giving an opportunity to talk about this great hoary civilization to a lot of youngsters here. What got us into, actually, my husband and I, we both work on this jointly, and we've been doing so for the last 25 years. And it all started because as part of our professional career, we were traveling all over the world. And we used to see how the different civilizations showcase the knowledge and about the history about their civilization, the culture, various aspects. Whereas we have so much of knowledge and so much of information, And we have influenced the whole world with this knowledge, and as well as a lot of our produce too. And we don't talk about it, and we have not been showcasing it enough. We are not aware of it ourselves. So we started compiling. Those were pre-Google days, pre-social media. So it took us quite a while to compile, but the journey gave us a beautiful holistic picture about the civilization, its different knowledge systems, how they're all seamlessly integrated. And so that is what we've been trying to bring out to everybody here. I mean, both Indians and people all over the world, we try to share all this information. Now, coming to the relevance of this knowledge system, and especially on the topic of Baudhayana and geometry, since there are so many youngsters here, I would like to start off with saying the relevance starts when you first start appreciating. You first have to become aware and appreciate, and then automatically you will see the relevance in so many areas. And to become aware and start appreciating, one of the first few words, Baudhayana and geometry, when you say, so where does this geometry start? How has this civilization envisaged geometry, understood geometry? And the word geometry, we all say today, every child today, fortunately today, is able to say that geometry comes from Jyamiti or Gyamiti, which is an Indian word. And how did they get this word geometry then? So, the question is to keep on asking how, why. As a youngster, all of us should keep on asking these questions, how and why. And we'll automatically, the beauty will be unraveled. I would like to share screen if I have the permission. Yes,
Yeah,
I
ma'am.
can. Thank you. See, I would like to show this shloka, which is called Bhu Gayatri, okay? So we say Dhanurdaraye cha vidmahe sarva siddhyai cha dhimahi tanno dhara prachodayat. So which means this is Bhu for the earth, and it's a praise to the earth saying, "Oh mother, we understand you as holding the bow, and you're known to bestow upon us all prosperity, and you stimulate our minds, and you're bearing the whole thing, and you're offering all this to us." Now, this imagination of earth as a bow, look at this. If you were to stand, so this is what our ancient Rishi actually did. They, wherever they stood, they looked up at the sky, and from one horizon to the other, they discerned that this sky is like a bow. And all the planets, of course, planets and other objects, they are spread all over the sky, but there were these which were traveling along this path in the sky. And this bow is not a bow if it doesn't have this bowstring. And what was this bowstring? This entire line from one horizon to the other is your bowstring. And what is the sound that a bowstring makes? When you pluck a bow, you have a dhanush, and you pull the string, it makes a sound, jiao, jiao. That's a kind of sound you'll get, with a tight, taut bowstring. And look at the word for a bowstring, it is jia. So for them, the earth is like a jia, and it is holding the dhanur on top. So mathematics, the geometry, all of this are actually, they are just not some formulae and some numbers and some abstract things. That is reality. Maths is reality. It is the real that you see around you. So when two people come together and you say two come from this side, two come from that side, and you say 2 + 2 is 4, that is the reality you're seeing in front of you with your eyes. And this civilization has evolved maths beautifully, and you can credit it with every important aspect of mathematics, starting from 0 to infinity, almost like this entire the bow, the spectrum, and also the individual aspects of numbers, the algebra. But for all this to understand, you have to understand the concept behind why do you use algebra? When should you use algebra? Why did they find the need to use algebra? When did they find the need to use geometry? From there, when did they move on to using trigonometry, inventing trigonometry? When did they then move on to calculus? And with all of these, when you look at this as an entire civilization and you see the ties that this civilization has had with other ancient civilizations, you will also see how beautifully all these have moved. From here, it has gone there, how things have further developed, and with time where we have reached today, how we have reached today only because of these kind of fundamentals. And the importance of this jya, which becomes jyamiti or geometry, also lies in one of the most important discoveries of Baudhayana, which is pi, and which talks about the ratio, right, about the circumference and the diameter. I will just show you yet another aspect. This is part of our book, which is called Brand Bharat, Roots in India. And I will show you the
Madam,
cover at the end, but yes.
kindly, ma'am, continue all this. I extremely apologize. It's a technical fault from our side. Ma'am, please rejoin.
Yes.
Seems the meeting is dropping.
Request everybody else to go on mute if you're not speaking, please. We can hear a lot of noises, background noise.
Uh, Actually, I've got a very different kind of a screen here now. Can you just give me a minute? I'll just
Yes,
log out and come
sure,
in
ma'am.
again. If you don't
Sure,
mind.
ma'am.
Yeah.
We are waiting, ma'am.
Shivangi, can you be on mute, please?
Por favor, silenciar sus micrófonos.
Yes. Good. At least now I'm back to the Zoom, proper Zoom. So I'll just show you something very interesting, especially when you talk about pi. See, when you say that, my screen is visible, right? Yes. So we say that the value of pi is 3.14, and people attribute it to all these sutras from our Sulba Sutra and all that. And then they show how they have, in these Sulba Sutras, they've spoken about the value of 3, little more than 3, and so on. But look at this. If you have, and Sulba means itself a rope, a string. So look at this. If you have, let us say, some measure, and you have, and the whole idea of a circle is what? That every point on the circle is equidistant from the center. So fundamentally, you are keeping a point, your hand here, and you're trying to draw something. Let's say you're using a stick as a measure. Now, if the thread that you're using is just 1 time the length of that stick, then it will only align against it. If it is 2 times, it will just go around it. If it is 4 times, it is just same like 2. 2 times it can go around it. So somewhere between 2 and 4 is the state where you can have a shape of a circle. So that itself is a way to understand why should pi be 3.14. And then you can have a lot of, as you grow, you will keep understanding so many theorems and go through it, and you will come to the reasoning as to why it is 3.14 and so on. And look at the word they have given for pi. Paridhi Vyasa Sambandhana. So paridhi means circumference. And what is pi? It's the ratio of circumference to diameter. Look at the word for diameter. It is Vyasa. Vyasa is the word which means diameter. Now, normally, when we say the word Vyasa, what first comes to our mind? Veda Vyasa. And why do we say Veda Vyasa? And what do we understand when we say Veda Vyasa? We think of compilation, right? Because in English, we have always been told Veda Vyasa, he is the compiler of the Veda. So compilation is Vyasa. But what does a diameter do? It slices the circle into two halves. And if you look at the word, meaning of the word Vyasa itself, Vyasa means to divide, to organize, so to rearrange. That is the word Vyasa. And when you say a compilation, the activity of compilation, what does it mean? You take something from here, you take something from there, you reorganize, you recompile, you put them together. So when you say Vyasa as just compiler, it gives you a different notion. But then when you look at Vyasa and understand the meaning of the word Vyasa, and look at how it has been used in geometry as a divider of the circle into two halves, then you get a beautiful understanding of how they have approached geometry. So geometry pi is paridhi. And paridhi also, what is paridhi? Dhi is, it's a receptacle. That's why your intellect is called dhi, because it's a receptacle. It's holding everything. You may be such a small figure, but your dhi is so big that it can hold so much. It's holding much more than what your size is. And that's a receptacle dhi. And dhi denotes that flat area. So what is paridhi? It is this line, right? So what is the circumference? It is this line. And what is this doing? This line? It is separating this flat receptacle from everything that is around it. So paridhi, so dhi and the thing around it, it is separating it. So this is how everything in our knowledge system has a meaning, and a meaning that will come very nicely to you. And when you start looking at a circle like this, and then your understanding itself and how to apply it will grow manifold. So this is what is the relevance of, so because today you know what is pi, you know Pythagoras theorem, you know so many of these things. Definitely we can show how all of these have traveled, but they've gone there, they have also worked on it, and then it has now come back into our education system, which incidentally also we can show how the education system also went from here. But that's besides, 15 minutes is not enough for that. But the point is, now what do you do with Baudhayana? Why should you study Baudhayana? Why should you study all these rishis' works? And our earlier speaker, Dr. Krishnaswamy, very nicely, he also said that he seems to have grappled with the subtle and the gross. So all of these geometry was, if you look at it, is not just numbers and just figures and shapes only of concrete. They are means by which we can transcend from subtle and gross beautifully. And that is why you also have 0 to infinity and all the concrete numbers in between as well. And these kind of understanding will come once you start reading these texts in the original and start understanding it from these perspectives. In fact, calculus itself went long ago to Europe, but they had a lot of difficulty in comprehending because our philosophy to maths is very different from the philosophy that the West has understood and settled down to. So it's important not only to look at maths, but to look at the overall philosophy and aspects, the ethos in the Indian knowledge system. to understand and put all of this to good use. So this is what I would like to share in this short duration, and I hope many of you youngsters get motivated to pursue all these different texts in original. And we do have a lot of information in our website, which is, I will just show you so that you can go there anytime to read it. Just a second. So it is Bharat Gyan, BHARATHGYAN.com. If you go there, you will see, and we also offer a lot of courses which are being conducted world over. And you can go to the courses here where we deal with all these in detail, and there are credits courses. You have books here, mini books, films. So please enjoy, go through this and savor all of this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for very enlightening discussion that we had and great presentation that you gave on Baudhayana and its five. Thanks a lot for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
For enlightening all our participants as well. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So I would now want to invite our next speaker, who is Swami Ashutosh Peer. He is a practicing renunciate and a sage in South America, based in South America, and uh, he has been running his own university where he teaches students in the ancient Indian philosophy and yoga. Sir, Swamiji, can I request you to please make yourself on the camera? We cannot see
Yes,
you.
I already turned on my camera. Thank you very much.
Pranam Swamiji, and thanks for being here. It would be great pleasure to hear from you. So Swamiji, we have a few questions that we have received for you from our participants. We would want request you to please throw some light on those aspects as well. So let me just go to the first question that I have for you. Swamiji, what we've heard is that you were John Pablo in your past, and you were into a vibrant profession of music and psychology. Now, what made you choose a life of a renunciate, and what made you open uh, a university who can teach students in the ancient Indian philosophy and the techniques of yoga? Can you please elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting. And besides, thank you very much to my Gurudev, because without him, he is impossible to be here. Everything is by his grace. And I think that since I was a little shy, I have been always feeling this longing for self-realization. This is not something that happens to me when I was an adult person. Since I was a child, I was feeling, why am I here? What is this life? What is the meaning of everything? What is the purpose to be here? So when I learned how to read books, I started to read books about life after death, and I started studying life after death books from Srila Prabhupada books. So I studied Srila Prabhupada when I was 5 or 6 years old. I also studied the Bhagavad Gita. And while I was growing up, I started to study also Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Yogananda Paramahansa, and many other things, you know. So always in my life has been very clear that the real meaning of life is to reach self-realization and to reach self-knowledge, and also to help people. I think to live a life without service is a life without meaning. So for me, the meaning of life is to focus in meditation and to dedicate my life to service. So when I first met my Gurudev and I received Sannyas Diksha, always been very, very, very clear for me that Sannyas lives are lives of service also. So for me, to live a Sannyas life is to fulfill the aim of my life, to dedicate my life to service. So I have never been identified with my life or name or everything, and I always identify with non-person, not identified with anything, just God and service, nothing more. And feeling grateful with my Gurudev, I felt that I have to give honor to him for everything that I have received in my life. So I create Sumendrativ University in his name. And in Sumendrativ University, our purpose is to share ancient Indian culture, yoga, meditation, Vedantic knowledge, Kashmir Shaivism teachings also, and everything that we can share from Indian culture in Sumendrativ University. So actually, we have a lot of people following us in our social media, seeing our classes. Every day we are giving classes at night about Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. And next week, we will start to make classes about death, how to receive death, how we can prepare for death, and everything else. So all the time we are sharing all these teachings, no? All the time. All the time we are creating things for people from Vedic knowledge.
Very great, Swamiji. Uh, so since today's theme is on Baudhayana Rishi, so I would pose another question related to Baudhayana Rishi. Swamiji, you've already heard about him. He was existing around 400 to 800 BC, Baudhayana Rishi. At that time, people say there were no high-tech equipments or technology available, but we were still able to dwell that deep into the ocean of mathematics through the journey of inner consciousness. Now, what do you have to say on that? Is it possible? How is it possible? And do you also train your students in such methods?
Yeah, everything is inside of us, because how one great master says, everything is consciousness. Consciousness, or Atman in other words. So all the knowledge, all the wisdom of the universe, of the science are lying within ourselves. So that is why great sages get to have that kind of wisdom to know science, mathematics, and astrology, and many things within themselves due to meditation. They devote the most part of their lives to explore consciousness, because consciousness is the great unexplored area of life, the final frontier. Consciousness, it is the invisible but essential ingredient that even science approaches with fear and trembling, and yet in the ancient philosophy has explored incompletely, and that philosophy and consciousness itself is the subject of spiritual practice. So that is why all the great Mahatmas had amazing knowledge about everything. I was reading in the Passion books. That book says that a very old Siddha brings medicines and many other things for humanity. And where they got that knowledge within themselves. So here in the modern times, people people don't know everything about explore the inner realms due to social media. I think due to the society and everything. We only believe that material things are the only truth, that we are only a body with a limited capacities, but this is not true. Within ourselves, we have unlimited force, energy, and potential. So if we know how to go inside ourselves and get in touch with that knowledge, energy, and potential, we can get all the wisdom, all the knowledge. We can understand everything. I remember Ramana Maharshi, for example, and Ramana Maharshi had the capacity to understand many things without go to university. Why? Because he reached self-realization. So I think the most important thing is to get to know ourselves, what we are in reality. And we know what we are in reality. We have the capacity to understand the life and the mysteries and secrets of life, because everything lies within ourselves. And I think this is not a belief. This is a real experience. I remember when I was studying with one great master from Kashmir Shaivism, and he speaks a very less English, very less English. He speaks a lot Hindi and sometimes a few words in English. And when I was studying with him, I remember that when I was receiving all this knowledge, very deep knowledge, he was explaining me Abhinavagupta's teachings, Swami Laxmanju's teachings, Shiva Sutra's teachings, Vigyan Vairava Tantra teachings, everything. In the first time, I was confused because I was thinking how I can receive this knowledge from this master if I can understand his knowledge, his language, sorry. But every time we finish the classes, I understood everything. And in time, I realized that was his powerful radiation, his energy, the media through he was giving me these teachings. He was speaking in Hindi, sometimes in English, but I was understanding everything. Everything was clear for me. Why? Because this powerful energy, and how he got to realize all this and have this power to transmit his knowledge beyond the language, because he reached this capacity within himself. So everything, by experience, I can say, everything lies within ourselves. We must go inside and know how to go inside to develop this capacity and reach this kind of knowledge. So we are divine. We are divine. We are not only these limited bodies. We are divine, and our cells are full of amazing sciences. So that is my answer, and that is my experience about this question.
Oh, great, Swamiji. And I think I have just one more extension to my current question. So how do you train your students in this who are studying in Swami Somendra Tirth University?
Okay, I create some courses about Kashmir Shaivism, about Vedanta teachings, about yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga also, and because I also study many years Tibetan Buddhist, so sometimes I found some parallel teachings. So sometimes I mix some things, with the students, because I want that Sumatra University be the main center of knowledge in South America, because in Spanish, it's not easy to find all these amazing teachings. It's not easy. I have been doing a very long search about these all books, and the most of them are in Hindi, some in English, some translations, but it's in Spanish. There are not more knowledge of this, and I think in South America there are a lot of people with a lot of potential to involve, to um, to elevate themselves, to expand their consciousness. So the times when I meet my Gurudev and I saw his amazing knowledge, I always think it's not possible that in Spanish we don't have all this beautiful knowledge. So we are giving courses, we are giving speeches, we are giving retreats, spiritual retreats where people do a lot of meditation, receive teachings, work with third eye meditation, and study the Upanishads, Yoga Vashista, all these great books. And I have a lot of students who are physicians, scientists, teachers in the university. All these people are very, very interested in all this ancient knowledge. This is very amazing. You cannot imagine how many people in South America are very, very interested in Indian knowledge. A lot of people. So we are giving everything almost free to people, without denying the access to this knowledge. All the people who wants to learn can come to us and learn meditation. Also, we are giving Shaktipat Diksha. So we are working almost 24 hours per day for people in Somendartit University, and we have the purpose that maybe in 2-3 years, all this beautiful knowledge will be very well known in South America.
Wow, that's really some work, Swamiji. Very appreciative, and you're doing it in a foreign land is really very appreciative, Swamiji, and very intriguing and very uh, inspiring for all of us. Thank you for your time, and probably we'll move with our next speaker, Mr. Atul Sen. Uh, Dr. Atul Sen, are you on the call, sir?
Probably some issue has come up with him.
Okay. So probably we, in the interest of the time, then probably what we could do is, if from the audience there are any one or two questions for our speakers, probably we can take those. And then I think we can go ahead with our last closing ceremony of awards distribution for various Garvit activities that were done earlier. Does that sound good?
Okay, that's fine. We'll continue with the certificate distribution.
Unless from the audience, if you have one or two questions. No? Okay. I think Veena, you could start with the distribution of the certificate.
Okay, so we start with the prize distribution ceremony. So at Garvit, we organize various competitions and we have winners through all over India. So let's go one.
I am Garvit. I was born on 22 June 2022. I am very young, but I have many interesting facts, tips, tricks regarding Bodha and Rishi. Do you want to know them? Come, let's explore. This is a storybook of Rishi Baudhayana that explains his devotion and mathematical calculation. You might have not heard them before, but I'll explain. He Rishi Baudhayana, the current Indologists have agreed to assign his text period from 800 to 400 BC. You can get his realistic works verified yourself. They are amazing. If we analyze, it clearly appears that he was deep into Vedic practices and he wanted to perform his rituals perfectly with available resources of that time. How to perform rituals was written in Salva Sutra, and he did calculations to achieve his target of attaining perfect geometry for Vedic rituals, that is, Vedic tools. He found the radius of the circles whose area is equal to that of a given square. Means if you know the side of the square, you will know the radius of the circle with the same area. He found a constant for the circle whose value he found as 3.08, close to the value of pi. He found the value of the square root of 2 as an expansion series at 1.414. He tied a rope across the diagonal of the rectangle and found its length. There are too many to pen down. You can download my Baudhayana Ganit worksheet and have fun with geometry. Thank you.